several years ago, I actually put together what I called an Enterprise Information Management Framework, an EIM framework. Another way to think about it, it's almost kind of like a framework for like a holistic data strategy, right? And you got different components. Enterprise information architecture, it's one of them, but then you have governance and stewardship, you have privacy, you have information governance, which has to do with records management, retention, and so forth. You know, the say-so there with security, right? Analytics, MDM, you know, a few more things in there. I took this through the organization, right? It got established, but I had a series of town halls that was speaking about it. And I had a footnote that I absolutely made it its own slide really big because I wanted to make this point. And the point was that none one of the pillars or components of this framework, it doesn't mean we're successfully managing our data. That framework was kind of like a bird's eye view, everything I need to really manage data as an asset, right? So what I was trying to say is for really drive business outcomes, we need to work together. So the culture, it's a culture of collaboration, of partnerships, trusted partnerships, right? Collaboration, transparency, working together. And what happens when you get slowly to that maturity level, when you have the right folks driving things, right? Because another critical factor in making this whole thing work, in my mind, is having the right folks in the right roles, right? So when you have the right folks that can communicate it the right way, get the executive leadership support, because executive leadership, it's also one of those critical success factors, right? What happens is what I said earlier, that the measures change as well. There's a lot happening here. So success means that the entire thing works, not just this piece. So guys work together, figure out the dependencies. Those become measurable goals. And if that's what people are measured on, then we're getting away from what you were just saying, my measurement is to deliver this, right? So it's like the whole mindset, the whole ways of working and culture changes. And there's so many different aspects to this. But yeah, having the right folks to drive it, getting the top to be behind it, with the right investment going in, focusing on the people aspect of it and the technology and the process, right? And just driving goals through the layers that, you know, connect. Yeah, people can have their own individual goals, but they all, no matter where you're sitting, right? They all point back up to key strategic business objectives, right? Somehow they need to connect. Otherwise, we're going to keep on proliferating everybody thinking for their silo. And all I'm hearing about the last several years is organizations wanting to go through transformation, business transformation, digital transformation. The transformation, more than anything else, it's about getting people to work together. It has so much to do with the culture. And it's about changing how you do business every day. And people do business every day. The technology part of it, that's there to enable it. It's a tool. But that human factor, that human element, that people element, and how we work with each other, which is the culture of the organization, in my mind, that's the most critical thing to make these things work.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love, like, recently I tried to explain what do I mean when I think of, or I say data leader, you know, because discovering data is trying to be that connect, that bridge that brings us all together and makes us realize that we're actually very much similar instead of being different across virtually all data roles. I strongly believe that. And when I think about a data leader, I don't think about a software developer or a strategist or a consumer of the data, someone in procurement, in sales, in marketing. I think about them all, because to me, it's about, you're a data leader if you take responsibility. Basically, if you say, I know that the data that comes in and out from my sphere of awareness is going to impact people and processes and the business. And this is going to happen inward and outward, you know, upstream and downstream. And I resolve to take responsibility to try my best to make sure that both the incoming and outgoing are fit for purpose, whether I know how to code or not. Because a lot of the time it's not about, you know, implementing the change yourself. It's about explaining it in the right way to the right person so they can go and implement it. But if you don't have that storytelling piece and a culture where these people are receptive to that input is gonna die. Even if you tell the most amazing story, if those folks think this does not drive my KPI, I'm not gonna get paid more if I do this, it's gonna die there and then, right? And it's almost a web where every node, every hub of this network has to be connected, where the hubs are people and their intention of serving other people. It's almost a servant leadership kind of philosophy. And the spokes that connected are these communication lines, the storytelling, the people skills, the empathy that we need to be able to feel what it's like to be the person downstream. And imagine, like, I know this might sound like you know, an idealistic view, but if we were to like for 1 second, like wipe the whiteboard and describe what such a system would look like. I mean, imagine the possibilities, right? Imagine working in an environment where you know that there's people backing you up all the time. You know, no matter where you look, no matter which relationship you take into account, in all the people that you interact with every day, they all think like you. They all want this to succeed. They all do it without focusing on their self-interest first and realizing that their best interest is only a consequence of the interest of the collective organization. And I would probably stop everything I'm doing and go and work for an organization like that.
If I may, Loris, right? Let me just say here what I'm thinking about a data leader. Even if I just think about the two words data and leader, right? First of all, I'm going to start with leader. Leader for me is, first of all, got to be a business leader. You have to be thinking about what impact am I making for my business? Am I driving business outcomes, really, you know, business results that make a difference? Yeah, I'm doing it with data, but is it actually helping my business, or am I just doing busy work, right? But also it's someone, again, right, skills for the right role, someone that, yes, can communicate, that can get the executives to understand this very complex thing about data and whatever that is, that it's so hard for folks to understand sometimes, right? So great communication skills, right? But not just for the executives, depending who you talk to. Clear. You obviously need to know your domain. You need, I think, to have good expertise in the data domain. Doesn't mean you know how to do everything, but you know, that has to be, I think, your core domain to do a really good job. But it also means that, you know, you can drive change. You have to be resilient because the pushback is going to be there, especially when you're trying to drive a data strategy in an organization, you know, medium or large organization where people for decades have been used to doing things differently, and data was always an afterthought. So again, you gotta be a visionary that knows how to balance with what we need right now. You gotta be really good with prioritization because everybody wants better data.
Yeah.
So how do you prioritize demands, right? You need to get, you know, that engagement at you know, not just your very core team or the people you work with, but, you know, getting the organization engaged. Think about data literacy. That, in my mind, it's like a very key work stream, if you will, a key pillar as part of implementing a data strategy as a data leader, right? That means it touches many different people. So how do you get people behind this? Sure, you got the executives, but things don't work because, hey, I'm telling you to do like this, and an executive said to do like this, because there's so many layers in the organization. You know, and you need to work with these people. These people need to be engaged. They need to adapt this and work with you, not against you, as you're trying to drive implementing that data strategy, right? And it's not an easy thing. The other thing I think we haven't really touched on is that this is not just something that happens overnight, right? Doing this, it's really a journey, as they say. You know, you got to start at some point, but again, there's so much chaos sometimes, mess, not data mesh, but data mess, data mess. And I'm saying with an accent too, there is like so much opportunity to better manage our data, right? This, it's typically a multi-year, you know, big program by the time you get to like keep on optimizing, right? And do even better with your data. It's a journey. But yeah, you need, as a data leader, you know, you need the visionary that can get people engaged, can get executives back, can get all of these folks working that can also execute. This is why I was saying, hey, you need to be able to prioritize. You need to be focused in your execution. You're a visionary that can lead and can execute. And there's so much into that. I mean, it's only 3 words, I think I said: visionary, lead, execute, and data. Okay, knowing about data, 4 words, but there's so much behind all of that. We can take each one of them and talk for a day for each word and what it means.